correct when they say that the so-called recognition of a Palestinian state is one of the fruits of the 7th of October, because there's a direct line we can trace between that horrific dark day when they and other Palestinian terrorists invaded Israel, killed people, raped people, kidnapped people, burnt people alive. And today, when Britain is apparently taking that position that Keir Starmer says we're going to recognise a Palestinian state in September at the UN, not because of anything he says they've done to deserve that statehood, but as some sort of punishment to Israel for having to engage in a war that it didn't want, a war that it didn't start in response to that horrific day, and as some sort of punishment to Israel for not surrendering. It's all upside down. And I think that Keir Starmer, after the release of those horrible hostage videos where we saw truly Holocaust-like imagery of truly starving people in the Gaza Strip, the Jewish hostages still being kept there, deliberately starved by Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, this should really give him pause for thought.
Well, let's play one of these videos, and this is particularly, I should warn people, it's particularly disturbing. It is a footage of a guy called Eviatar David digging his own grave in a Hamas tunnel. So there he is, I mean, looking incredibly emaciated, incredibly thin, and he was made to dig his own grave. Now, Hamas have put this out over the last couple of days. What's their motivation for doing that? Why would they do this? I mean, this will only make people feel worse about them, won't it?
Eviatar David there, shown in this horrific state, you know, his body really a bag of bones. It is quite horrific. And as you said in the part of the video that you haven't seen yet, they're forcing him to literally dig his own grave, to say, this is my grave, I believe I will die and be buried here. Hamas is doing this because they're ruthless, jihadist, extremist Islamists. That's why they're doing this. They've always been clear about their aims. Their charter is very clear that they want the death of all Jews, that there is no compromise to be made with the state of Israel, that there is no negotiated settlement, that there should be no two states, a Jewish state and a Palestinian state. They've always been clear about this since their foundation in 1987. Ever since they were clear about it on October the 7th, it only really seems to be people like Keir Starmer and David Lammy who have any doubts about what it is they're doing. And there you can see him having to literally dig his own grave underground in a tunnel where he's been deprived of light, of water, of food. None of this, by the way, is surprising. I think we all knew this is how the hostages were being treated. In fact, many of them are already dead. We know that, many of the hostages who still haven't been released. And yet Keir Starmer wants to reward these people with statehood.
It's extraordinary. And obviously this is a statement by Hamas that we ain't letting out the hostages anytime soon. Israel making it very clear, you let the hostages out and we'll talk about a ceasefire. The fact that Hamas won't do it is why the war continues. It's their fault. Make no mistake.
It's even worse, actually, Kevin. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. It's even worse than that, because actually Israel has been going to extraordinary lengths over the last month or so with the US and Qatar and Egypt to negotiate some kind of agreement with Hamas to get the hostages out and to make concessions to Hamas. They were even willing to make territorial concessions they hadn't been willing to do previously. And Steve Witkoff and others were due to meet on the 23rd of July to finalise these arrangements. And on the 21st of July, it was actually David Lammy leading a group of other countries who made this statement that there should be an unconditional ceasefire straight away, that emboldened Hamas to change their position. It stopped diplomacy from happening. And I think that in that respect, the UK and these other countries have a lot to answer for, because they have prolonged the torture, they've prolonged the war, and they are now going to be partially responsible, at least, for what happens next. Tonight, the news out of Israel is that they are considering occupying the Gaza Strip. And anyone who says that this is because of Israel is a belligerent state that has this action out of revenge is wrong. It's taken 22 months before Israel has gone here. This is a last resort. It's certainly not a first resort. I really think that people are reacting directly opposite to how they need to, leaving Israel very little choice. If the choice is between what it's about to do and to surrender, it's not going to surrender.
No, exactly right. Let the hostages out and there will be movement. If you don't, there won't be. It's as simple as that. Can I just quickly get you, before you go, Jonathan, on something that kind of irritated me? It is the story that thousands of Palestine Action supporters are planning to demonstrate all over the country and overwhelm the police with their mass numbers, their mass demonstrations, flouting the new law that, of course, prescribes Palestine Action as an illegal terrorist organisation. Among the protesters, no doubt will be a woman. She's called Deborah Hinton. She's from Cornwall. She's 81 years old. I just thought this is a snapshot of the modern British establishment. She's 81 years old. She's a former magistrate, and she's also a former member of the National Parole Board, deciding on whether or not prisoners should be released. She was arrested last weekend outside Truro Cathedral, holding a placard which said, "I oppose genocide, I support Palestine Action." Not so long ago, this woman was deciding on whether or not people went to prison, whether or not they were guilty, deciding on whether or not people came out of prison as a member of the National Parole Board. I don't think she was worthy of that position with these kind of views. Do you?
We know what's so sad about this is people like her, apparently fine, upstanding members of British society, probably think they're doing the right thing. They probably think they're virtuous. But honestly, if this had anything to do with Palestinian Arabs and their suffering, if this had anything to do with making peace, with trying to resolve the conflict that's been going on for decades, if it had anything to do with all that, they could choose to show their support in a constructive way. And instead, they're picking the one organisation that has been outlawed as terrorist that is expressing these views on the streets. They could just express it some other way. So I think what it shows you is a sort of knee-jerk, hard left reaction to just try and do what you're not supposed to do. And the attempt to try and swamp the system with thousands of people doing this. I mean, by the way, their signs, I oppose genocide. Everyone opposes genocide, but there isn't a genocide taking place in Gaza.
I know, just like there isn't a famine there either. There's not a famine there either.
Right, it's a war. It's horrible to watch. There may be hunger, there may be shortage. It's not, that doesn't make it a famine, that doesn't make it a genocide. These people are deliberately trying to disrupt our society in Britain, when we have our police and our government and our courts have much bigger things to deal with than these luxury beliefs of these do-gooding idiots who just want to go out there and disrupt everything. And it doesn't matter how upstanding they've been during their life. If you choose to show your support openly and clearly in black and white for a group that has been defined by the law as a terrorist organisation, that is your fault, and you do deserve to be locked up for it. But I think it speaks to a bigger truth, which is that these people are using the people of Gaza, and they are using Israel and the Jews and all the anti-Semitism this causes. They're using it for their other aims, which is just a virtue signal that they think they're
just virtue signaling. Indeed, Jonathan, I've got to go, but thank you so much. Jonathan Sacerdoti there.